What's going to happen to Africa because of this? I think the private sector will step in, but there wasn't a lot of transition time. Super high unemployment in some of these communities, as high as 70%. And our main job is handling these organizations who are small to medium, handling their philanthropy. So their donors come to us, they grant to us, and then we grant to their projects all over Africa.
All right. I want to welcome everyone back to the Green Hour. We are live at the Concordia Annual Summit during Climate Week, New York City. I'm sitting here with Krista Krieger, CEO of Empowers Africa. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
So I think the first question I'll ask, could you talk about the organization, the founding of it, how it all came together?
Yes. So it came together in 2013. I was with another organization prior to that was primarily only involved in human empowerment in sub-Saharan Africa. And so I cut my teeth on human empowerment. So building schools, raising money really for building schools, infrastructure, healthcare, water, clean water, that sort of thing. And then I had so many people who wanted to join, women who wanted to join the board. And also we wanted to expand our mission statement to wildlife protection and land conservation. And the organization I was with didn't fit within their mission statement. So we started our own organization. It was 20 founding trustees, all female, in 2013. And we started off just as a granting organization, just pooling our money, running the odd event, and granting those funds to different projects in Africa within those three program areas. So wildlife protection, land conservation, and human empowerment. And then about a year into working, one of the big safari companies, they have their own NGO, contacted me and said, could you handle our donations for us? Because we don't like the organization we're using. They're charging us, 15%, and they only grant quarterly and all these complaints. And I said, sure, we'll just try it as a trial. And since then, we now have about 50 organizations that we represent in that same model as a fiscal sponsor. So we handle all their donations and then grant to their projects. So it's all word of mouth, well, I suppose, and Google.
Yes.
So if you put in if you put in Africa and fiscal sponsor, we almost are always at the top of the search. And so
SEO.
SEO. Well, we have the Google grants going, so that helps. But anyway, that's the history. So we're all female run, we're all female governed. And our main job is handling these organizations who are small to medium, handling their philanthropy. So their donors come to us, they grant to us, and then we grant to their projects all over Africa.
So is your organization picking the type of projects that the money's getting financed to, or is the other user?
No. Okay. So the organizations on the ground in Africa have their own programs. It's the gamut. Most of them are in wildlife protected areas. So we have a heavy part of our portfolio is with organizations that are in ecotourism. And they run their programs the way that they want to run them. So some are more interested in building schools. Some are more interested in, saving the rhinos. So they choose those projects. So they really fall within those three broader program areas, but the projects are chosen by them. And then they report to us at the beginning of every year what projects they want to raise money from U.S. donors. We all sign off on that. And then, of course, I have to visit projects. So we have a team that visits the projects periodically. It's a lot to cover.
Right.
Because we're in many countries. And we also work with a few high net worth individuals who want to give to Africa, but don't have a 501. Those grants are much larger and they don't reflect on our website. So they're just, because those organizations tend to be they don't have U.S. donors, so they don't really need that platform.
Right.
But we also serve as a fiscal sponsor for another 10 entities that you won't see on our website. And it's all basically conservation, wildlife protection, and human empowerment. particularly around these protected, so all the big major protected wildlife areas,
Right.
Okavango Delta, the Serengeti, we're in the Congo, we're in, you name it, like pretty much all Eastern and Southern, no West Africa.
No West.
Not yet. I just don't have the capacity.
I see.
You
Would you
know,
have to grow the team to be able to handle
I'd have
that?
to grow the team, and I'm not sure I want to do that. I love our small niche market. One of the things that organizations will say to me when they reach out to us is, we're with one of the bigger platforms. So there are a lot of really large fiscal sponsor platforms. I mean, they're massive. I mean, they might have Starbucks pension, like they're huge. They'll have 700 entities in Africa. I'm not saying this from my own experience. I'm saying it from what I've heard as bad feedback. Terrible with customer service. Emails don't get answered. Phone calls don't get, because if you're small and medium, you just kind of don't hit their radar.
Right.
They also usually have a large setup fee, and then they make you earn a certain amount of money before you can take it out. Some only grant quarterly. Yeah, because it's just, it's admin. So if I keep it small, I can keep that customer service, and I can also keep my eyes on it, right? If it gets too big, I'd love to scale it up, but I would need another me, and I'd need like another CFO, and I'd need to really, so I like keeping it small.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, you brought up ecotourism. This is a really interesting concept because I'd say the tourism industry is great for the local economy, right? But I think in the past, you see certain places where it kind of hurts and harms the environment. So this term of ecotourism is very important. Could you talk about that a little bit?
So most of the organizations, the big safari companies, are very, very compliant with having the lowest and most eco-friendly footprint. They really focus on that. The big safari companies in Africa, if you talk about brand name, there's Singita, there's Wilderness Safaris. It's now called Wilderness. Asilia, they all have their own NGOs. And they're very, very, very interested in conservation. So they really work hard to make sure that their lodges are as eco-friendly as possible. They also know in this world that we live in now, in Africa in particular, you've got to give back. You can't just have, yes, it's great for job creation. Some of these people working in the lodges might, support 15 people and their family. It's a great job to have. It's a primo job. Super high unemployment in some of these communities, as high as 70%. And so to have a job as a tracker or a chef or a, cleaning, even a cleaning crew, it's a big deal. And it's great when they know that their kid is going to a school supported by that organization. That just breeds a better environment for everybody. It makes those people happier. When you come in and stay in the lodge, you feel it. And you're also doing something great for people who often don't have power, don't have water. We take these things for granted. In these communities, there's still no access to water. You see people carrying water every day. It's just the way it is in Africa right now. We still have a lot of people off grid. We have a lot of people without water.
So I am curious, as the financing arm, right? You're collecting this money, right? And then dispersing the money to these projects that the organization want to do. Is there any kind of traceability that your organization puts in place, or guardrails, I might say, to ensure that certain things are actually happening?
Right. Well, that's a very good question. And that's why I don't like taking organizations that I don't know.
Right.
So most of the organizations that come to us it's word of mouth. The odd one will come through Google, but then I'll find out, they know this person, because it's a small world, and it's a small world in the conservation arena. I visit projects. That's really the only way you can really, yes, we collect budgets, we have regular calls, we have, reporting, and we have, a stringent sort of like upfront due diligence process. But you got to go and visit. And so that's what we do. We rotate a team of people, and we rotate through the countries. So this year I was heavily focused on South Africa, and one of the other people went to Zimbabwe and Zambia. And next year it'll be it'll be Kenya. It's just we just move around. So that's a big part of it.
So I do want to understand some of the challenges, right, that you face. These financing challenges towards conservation that you've seen.
Yeah, well, obviously we've had a lot of change with our government.
Right.
There's been a lot of organizations scrambling to find funding that was formerly sponsored by USAID or other organizations. That's actually caused a lot of like I said, uptick in business for us, because now when you're getting a grant from USAID, you didn't need a fiscal sponsor. They can give it directly. So now they need to start reaching out to the private sector. So I would say that the challenge of the year is seeing these organizations pivot from USAID or other government funding to the private sector. And most of them are doing it. But it's a scramble because there wasn't a lot of notice. There wasn't a lot of sort of like transition time. It was the tap went off. To give you an example, in the Kruger National Park, they have a program to reduce rhino poaching. And it was funded by USAID. And it was to basically the program was to try to find local people other jobs besides poaching. And I think it was like a 10-year project. It's a long-term project. And that got cut. And at the same time, the funding for the cameras that detect all of the vehicles, so they use AI on the license plates, that got cut. So the scramble for someone else within the park system to take that job over, to keep the eyes on those license plates. And it happened, but people are just pivoting very quickly right now. But other than that, it's for us as an organization, it's capacity. I have to turn away a lot of really good organizations that I just can't keep eyes on, and I can't overwhelm my staff and myself.
It's a trickle down effect that I didn't even think about when something like USAID is cut. What all organizations and groups of people does that affect?
Well, it affects a lot of people.
Yeah.
A lot of our organizations were too small for USAID, so we're getting the ones that, and there was one that wasn't too small. They got a lot of money from that. They've got a private donor coming in, and I think another organization a non-governmental organization has come in to save the day because they do some really interesting work. But most of ours were small enough that they weren't really there were only two that I know. But I'm hearing all these stories when I visit the communities. What's the impact been? And I think it would be a really fascinating documentary, to have a team go into, because there are horror stories. In the Congo, for instance, women often get raped. Unfortunately, it's like almost, a way of life in the DRC. It's terrible and it shouldn't happen. But the USAID was supplying these kits so they wouldn't get pregnant. So they could get the kit and they wouldn't get pregnant from the rape. And I think it was also probably antiviral as well. I don't know all the details, but that just dried up overnight. So, and then you got people like Gates coming in to stopgap some of this stuff. So hopefully all that happens, but I think it would make an interesting, I think it would be an interesting study, on all the infectious disease meds like, tuberculosis and HIV/AIDS. What's going to happen to Africa because of this? I think the private sector will step in, but there wasn't a lot of transition time. So I worry about, that period of time.
Yeah. Well, I think the final question I'll ask, we've talked a lot about how you're kind of at capacity right now, right? And you're not able, you have to turn some people away. Good organizations, good people, you just can't do it.
I send them to the bigger platforms. Yeah. So I do that at least, and hopefully they get the attention they need.
Yes. But my question would be, where do you see your organization going in the future?
Well, we have a really heavy focus right now on film. So that's one thing we didn't talk about, which is our small document. We make short documentaries. Our next one, it's about an elephant orphanage in northern Kenya. It's on Apple TV and Amazon Prime as of October 7th. And what we do, our model is basically to make these films for organizations so they can use them for their purposes, but they're also educational. So this particular elephant orphanage, it's about rescuing these elephants. The babies fall in the wells and the moms eventually have to leave because they're herd animals. This organization comes in, rescues them. But the most interesting part about the orphanage is it's all community run. So this is the first time you've seen this in Africa. It's not a normal pattern. So we want to focus a lot more on video as a way to raise awareness about issues in Africa and also funding for organizations. So I'd say that's going to be a little bit more, because it doesn't take as much time, and a lot of it is, I don't have to visit it, and there's not all that due diligence behind it. So I would say And if we can scale up, it would be great. If we could at least sort of double what we're doing now, and that is something that we're looking at, but I just need to keep it small right now.
Right.
until we can have a little time to breathe.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So.
Well, I think it's very important that the media, the film, right? Because if people don't see the issue,
they don't know.
And they don't know about it. Everyone's in the unknown.
I mean, the video Virunga, which was, Leonardo DiCaprio and I forget who else was behind it, but it was super powerful. People weren't paying attention to the DRC and the oil, all the extraction of the natural resources. And that movie, it won Academy Award. So that's our goal.
Yes. Yeah.
Academy Award.
We'll get there. We'll get there. Definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I can't thank you enough for coming on and speaking with us today. You taught me a lot because I didn't really understand all the things that go on behind the scenes with financing. So this is definitely new territory for me.
It's not something a lot of people talk about, but it's an underserved and sort of not well-served area. And it certainly isn't one organization that's focused on conservation. It's broader. So we're very happy to be fulfilling that service.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much.
You're welcome. You're welcome.